Ramayika Ratra Vidina Nirapekshascharin Mahim. Sri Narada Muni said, a person able to cultivate spiritual knowledge should renounce all material connections, and merely keeping the body inhabitable, he should travel from one place to another, passing only one night in each village. In this way, without dependence in regard to the needs of the body, the sannyasi should travel all over the world. So now is the sannyasi. Ashra. Text 2.
Vibriyadya sovasaha
Kaupinachadanam param
Yaktam nalinga dandade
Anyat kinchit anapadi. Person in the renounced order of life may try to avoid even a dress to cover himself. If he wears anything at all, it should be only a loin cloth. And when there is no necessity, the sannyasi should not even accept a danda. The sannyasi should avoid carrying anything but a danda and kamandalu. Actually, nothing he owns. Text 3.
Prabhu, one sentence they are saying should not even accept a danda and then should avoid carrying anything but a danda and a kamandalu.
Well, when there is no necessity, he don't have to carry the danda.
But whenever in ISKCON, I think we do sannyas, they give the danda, right?
Yeah, when you take sannyas, you take the danda. But after a certain while, number of years, they don't feel like carrying, then it's okay. In the beginning, they all want to carry. After that, they're too heavy for them. They don't have to.
After a few years, you don't have to. There's some number of.
Yeah, but it's not a big deal. Text 3.
Eka eva charet bhikshur Atma Ramo Napashraya Sarva Bhuta
Shanto Narayana Parayana. The sannyasi, completely satisfied in the self, should live on alms begged from door to door, not being dependent on any person or any place. He should always be a friendly well-wisher to all living beings and be a peaceful, unalloyed devotee of Narayana. In this way, he should move from one place to another. He's not supposed to stay in one place too long, then he becomes attached to that place. Yes.
If he goes and asks food from different places, he may not cook properly,
No, generally they don't take cooked food, if I understand. They just take the grains or stuff like that. Unless they know they are vegetarians or Vaishnavas. I've seen in Vrindavan, they will beg only from those people who are following certain things. They won't go, if they know they are not following, they won't ask them. Not every home they come and ask. I've seen they walk and then they stop at some homes, then they give, then they go. Yeah. Text 4.
Pashed Atmanado Vishwam Pareshad Ashatovyaye Atmanam Cha Param Brahma Sarvatra
Sarasanmaye. The sannyasi should always try to see the Supreme pervading everything and see everything, including this universe, resting on the Supreme. Now, you asked a question about any home like in Thailand and all, the Buddhists, they do like that. They go back. And then whatever people give, they will eat that. So sometimes they'll give meat and stuff. So they say they are just begging and they're getting whatever. So therefore, yeah, the sannyasi is according to our Vedic understanding, he won't eat anything or everything given to him. Yeah. Text 5.
Susati Prabodhayo Sangha
Atmano
Atmadrik.
Atmano gatimatmadrik.
Pasyan bandam cha moksham cha.
Pasyan bandam cha moksham cha.
Maya matram navastita.
Maya matram navastita. During unconsciousness and consciousness, and between the two, he should try to understand the self and be fully situated in the self. In this way, he should realize that the conditional and liberated stages of life are only illusory and not actually factual. With such a higher understanding, he should see only the absolute truth pervading everything. So Prabhupada writes, the unconscious state is nothing but ignorance, darkness of material existence, and in the conscious state, one is awake. The marginal state between consciousness and unconsciousness has no permanent existence. Therefore, one who is advanced in understanding the self should understand that unconsciousness and consciousness are but illusions, for they fundamentally do not exist. It's how we relate to the material world, like that. Text 6.
Navinande dhruvam mrityum.
Navinande dhruvam mrityum.
Adhruvam vasya jivitam.
Adhruvam vasya jivitam.
Kalam param pratiksheta.
Kalam param pratiksheta.
Bhutanam prabhavavyayam.
Bhutanam prabhavavyayam. Since the material body is sure to be vanquished and the duration of one's life is not fixed, stop it, neither death nor life is to be praised. Okay? Rather, one should observe the eternal time factor in which the living entity manifests himself and disappears. Basically, we have to see how this time is moving and how it affects us in our life. Sometimes we are ignorant about the fact that time is actually moving and our life is going. So one should be very observant about such things, particularly for devotees, because whatever you lose one day, you can never get it back. So therefore, we should be very careful about how we utilize our time. So Prabhupada quotes Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Gitavali, Anadi karma phale padi bhavarnava jale taribarena deki upaya. One should observe the activities of eternal time, which is the cause of birth and death. Before the creation of the present millennium, the living entities were under the influence of the time factor. And within the time factor, the material world comes into existence and is again annihilated. Of course, he quotes Bhutva Praliyate, right? Then under control of time factor, the living entities appear and die, life after life. Prabhupada says this is an impersonal representation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Why they get this opportunity to actually enjoy or relish their desires. Each one will experience something they can, and then they die. And the next guy will come and he will experience the same thing. So therefore, puna punascharvita charvananam. Sometimes you are taking life after life, doing the same thing. So, and then it's going so many times, same cycle. So we should be very observant about what we are doing, and is this the first time I'm doing or the last time I'm doing? Am I doing it for the millionth time? The same thing.
So scriptures talk a lot about enjoy. Mostly it is suffering only. It is not enjoyment.
It is, and there's no enjoyment. Enjoyment is, as he says, it is illusory. Anything that's temporary is illusory. So if you say I'm enjoying something, then when it's finished, then what is the enjoyment value of the enjoyment? Right? Of course, because people don't understand the eternality of the spirit, so they think that is valuable. Whatever enjoyment they can get. Enjoy while you can. Right? But it's not like that. You'll come back to suffer again. Text 7.
Sajeta.
Nasa shastreshu sajeta.
Lopa jiveta जीविकम्
जीविकम्
वदा वदं त्यजेत् तर्कान् पक्षं कञ्चन संश्रयेत्
Literature that is a useless waste of time. In other words, literature without spiritual benefit should be rejected. One should not become a professional teacher as a means of earning one's livelihood, nor should one indulge in arguments and counter arguments, nor should one take shelter of any cause or fraction. Okay. Advaita, can you read the translation?
Literature that is a useless waste of time. In other words, literature without spiritual benefit should be rejected. One should not become a professional teacher as a means of earning one's livelihood, nor should one indulge in arguments and counter-arguments, nor should one take shelter of any cause or faction.
Factions. So we have to be careful. Now, when you're in school, you may have to read many types of literature, but that's okay because you're learning. For school, they want you to do that. That's all right. But you should always make sure you are reading scriptures at home. Give some time for those things. Otherwise, your time is wasted. A lot of people, you see, they're reading audiobooks in the, if you go flying or if you go anywhere, they're reading something. But what's the value of those books for them? So, in other words, how is it benefiting them? Okay, so it's not benefiting them materially. Also, just for those few hours they read, they are zoned out. They don't have to be in distress. But in reality, there's no real benefit. Spiritual benefit is something we're all looking for. Based on that, we should reject all these literatures. One should not become a professional teacher. There are many people who even use the spiritual literature to be a professional teacher, just to make money. So therefore, that is also rejected. So all the saptaha, right? You all should try to avoid that unless it's devotional. Be careful, because what is the word Prabhupada says? Milk touched by the lips of snake is poisonous. So if you're going to hear anyone give saptaha, that's what you're getting. Nor should one indulge in arguments and counter arguments. Sometimes among ourselves we are discussing, I must be the one whose answer is correct. So the other guy said, no, you're wrong. So it's like that, that thing when the two-person drowning, right? Stone or scissors. So like that, arguments, counter, useless. It should lead to Krishna consciousness. Okay? We should only take shelter of Krishna, not anything else.
Any cause means like
Anything
human
else.
liberation.
Yeah, anything that is not Krishna conscious should be rejected. Dharma, projita, kaitava, tatra. So we have to be like that. We should be convinced ourselves. Yeah, this has good cause sometimes. People have nice causes. You can support somewhat, but you shouldn't dive into it and take shelter. These are the people who are my well-wishers. Then you have a problem.
So cow protection.
Yeah, cow protection is fine. So you have to understand this. Otherwise, hey, we are just wasting our time again. So Madhvacharya says, there is no need to take shelter of unnecessary literature or concern oneself with many so-called philosophers and thinkers who are useless for spiritual advancement. So there are many useless people out there. And you guys know also, right? Sometimes they're useless. I remember when I was in college, there was a useless professor. They won't even teach anything. They'll come, they joke and with the students, waste 1 hour and they'll go. Huh? You've had, right?
Give the assignment.
Yeah, and they'll give the assignment, and then when the exam comes, they'll mark very heavily. But they never teach.
Daily they can't do that, right, Prabhu?
Oh, daily they'll do. They'll talk some
Just
nonsense.
A permanent job.
So therefore, they were useless. Similarly, if you hear sapta and so on, And the guy is just talking something that is nothing to do with changing your life. If someone wants to, talk about Krishna, but they are not telling you to change, honestly, then they are not your well-wishers. What is there for you when you go and listen to that? Okay, maybe you're listening about Krishna, but if they themselves are sinful people and they're talking about Krishna, how is it going to purify you? So you should be very aware of who you are dealing with, like that. And then, the Madhvacharya continues, nor should one accept a disciple for the sake of fashion or popularity. In the early days, when Prabhupada first initiated Westerners, many of the people in India wanted to have Western disciples also. So, for the sake of popularity and not for the sake of delivering them. One should be callous to these so-called shastras. Callous means we should ignore these things. They are not important. Sometimes when you walk on your hands or fingers too long, you get a thick skin, right? So that is called a callus. So the thick skin, so you have to also form a thick skin to this kind of philosophies. People will talk, right? So it's like, okay, good, very good. Okay. Yeah, so that's what the Madhvacharya says. Neither opposing nor favoring them. Just ignore them. Just say, oh, okay, very nice. Okay, yeah. Hare Krishna. And one should not earn one's livelihood by taking money for explaining Shastra. So again, same thing. It will have no potency. Just like in the previous times, the Ayurvedic doctors, when they give medicine or check your pulse or sickness, they should not take any money. They are supposed to serve, and whatever the people give, they just say whatever. Like nowadays, they are charging premium.
Actually, there is this Kottakkal Ayurveda.
Yeah,
They don't take actually. Even now they don't take. But you have to pay money for the medicine, of course. That they won't give free.
Herbs. Yeah.
Herbs. But then the doctor, he actually just checks and then they don't charge actually.
Yeah. So they try. Of course, if you have a manufacturing plant to do that, you have to maintain the herbs, who's going to grow. You have to pay the farmers, all of those things. So we understand that. But in general, we should be very careful when we. If you take the money, or if they give you money, take it and give it to Krishna. A sannyasi must always be neutral. That means he shouldn't take.
Shouldn't take some.
Take sides.
Shouldn't take sides. Yeah. And seek the means to advance in spiritual life. That means he should only be thinking of how to make advancement. Taking full shelter under the lotus feet of the Lord. Okay. Yes. So we should also follow the same way. In many ways, we are all pseudo sannyasis, no? Right? We are all trying to go back to Krishna, so we are trying to give up all the attachments like that. So therefore, we should follow some of these.
We see so many yatras we have done. Right?
Yeah.
One place in Tirupati, on the top of the hill, behind that, the devotee who actually threw.
Oh yeah. Ananta.
Ananta. So there's a temple.
Yeah, we went there.
So there's a devotee you take care of. He's in that lineage.
Oh.
So till now, only I found this one person. We gave him money. He didn't take it.
Bro, I had the exact experience with the same person.
Yeah.
I gave some money. He didn't.
So he looks like Radha Maharaj.
He has a small beard. And
So he's only one person I found so far.
me too.
Yeah. We gave him, he said no. Balaji is taking care of him.
Right.
Really, bro.
Amazing.
Surrender. Yeah. Text 8.
Nashasyan anubadnita
Nashishyananubadnita
Grantaneva vyashed bahun
Grantaneva vyashed bahun
Navyakyam upayunjita
Navyakyam upayunjita
Naramban arabed kvachit
Naramban arabed kvachit. A sannyasi must not present allurements of material benefits to gather many disciples, nor should he unnecessarily read many books or give discourses as a means of livelihood. He must never attempt to increase material opulences unnecessarily. Okay. So we have to be very careful as a sannyasi. Prabhupada say so-called swamis and yogis. That means they are not really swamis and yogis. So he says so-called. Generally make disciples by alluring them with material benefits. That means if you do this, you get this. You do that, you get fortune. You do that, you grow 6 feet tall. Like that. So, so they'll do all this thing and people, oh, I want to do, I'll get all this. So they promise, okay? And you see, oftentimes, sometimes devotee who are sick, they'll say there's some spiritualist, he can cure disease, and they'll go, they fly to some third world country, and then they come back, no cure. You know. So there are people like that. They may have some potency, but not enough to. Rake Krishna mare Krishna rake. So when Krishna wants to take you, nobody can stop you. So all these little worms and so on come and say, I can cure you. It's not true. It's in the hands of Krishna. So devotee should understand this is Krishna's mercy on me, and I should accept whatever he's trying to tell me in this life. If I have to die, so be it. It's a difficult lesson. But Krishna wants us to learn. Maybe we will go through so much difficulties, finally we accept it. I've seen it myself personally, 2 or 3 devotees like that. So finally they became peaceful, then everything was okay for them. But before that they'll travel 3, 4 places, you know. But in the end, they once they give up, they became peaceful. Yeah. So Prabhupada then continues in the purport. Sannyasi is prohibited from making disciples through such material allurements. So some of the things that sannyasi should be careful is constructing many temples and monasteries. We should be very careful. Actually, Prabhupada says such endeavors should be avoided. Okay? That means if we already have a center, then don't try to overbuild and say, oh, we want a big temple and so on, right? Cost of running a big temple is very expensive. Particularly in America, it's very expensive. Any big building is expensive. Property, utilities, and then weekly people come, they'll use all the resources and then they'll go. Then you have to somehow maintain those things. And then the deities 24/7, you have to take care of them. Usually people, everyone, yeah, I'll do. After 1 week only, they, oh man, it's too much for me. They say, give me second initiation, I'll go on the altar, I'll do all the seva. But after they realize they are not Brahmin. They don't have the Brahminical qualities. But they'll still want to be the Brahmanas. They want to wear all that and pretend Brahmanas. But they don't want to do the seva. So we have to be very careful. So similarly, sannyasis also have to be very careful. Not unnecessarily, we shouldn't build temples unless there is enough enthusiasm among the local devotees or the congregation to come forward and serve the deities fully. You know? Otherwise, what happens is they will do in the morning one puja and then the deities are all just waiting only. Where are my bhaktas? Where are they? It's noon time, I'm hungry. And then all the bhaktas at home cooking nicely and then have a photo of the deities and then the offering. But they can't come and offer. No, it's true, we are very selfish like that. So we should think very carefully why we are building a temple. It should be it's a contract actually. Just like the covenant, right, between the Lord and his devotees. The covenant of the Christians or Jews, they carried the covenant, the 10 commandments, right? They carried everywhere where they went to show that they have faith in that. So similarly, if you have deities, you must show the deities that you have faith. And it is said, if you take care of the deities nicely, they will take care of everything you need in the temple. Right? And also Prabhupada says all these places shouldn't be built to provide free hotels for persons who are useful for neither material nor spiritual purposes. So over the years we have found like that. There are people who come and then they stay, but they don't want to do any service. You tell them, they argue with you, and finally, after because devotees are kind, after many years, they will new GBC will come and kick them out, and then they'll say, "Oh, who's this GBC? Very nasty person." But actually, he's doing what Prabhupada is saying. It's not the club for crazy men. Okay, like that. Temples and monasteries should be strictly off limits to worthless clubs of crazy men. So Prabhupada said the temple is not for crazies and lazies. Okay, so if we are lazy, don't hang around. If you are crazy, don't hang around. Stay at home and come once a week. If you are crazy and lazy. Yeah. Right? You can come once a week and you can take prasad and go back. But if you want to stay, then you have to put your money's worth. Yeah, like that. Work your butt off like that. So Prabhupada says we agree, at least if people want to come, to follow the movement's regulative principles. No illicit sex, no intoxication, no meat eating, and no gambling. Oftentimes devotees are caught with illicit sex. Intoxication, not so much, but in the temple, they'll watch porn, and they go and try to seduce new people like that. And it's happened. That's why I'm telling you. So we have to be very careful when you hire people, because you're paying them already. So they have no other. They already bought. They have no dedication. And you find that when you pay too much, they have no dedication. Real dedication is when they don't want anything, and then they serve for a long time, forever like that. So Prabhupada still says gatherings of unnecessary, rejected, lazy fellows should be strictly disallowed. So it should be for devotees who are serious about spiritual advancement. You must come to the temple for spiritual advancement, not for anything else. So therefore, we should be very careful about constructing temples or places. We should use it for what it should be.
So during Prabhupada time, a lot of hippies were there.
Yeah.
Prabhupada was careful about who will be inside.
Yeah, but still problems were there. No? In the early days, so many people would come and do nonsense, take ganja, all those things. You have to clean up. Okay, don't stay here like that. Right. So the whole idea is to be giving shelter to the unfortunate mass. Yeah. Otherwise, we don't need extra temples. We don't need. We should be very careful when we build. It's expensive to run a temple. Right? When we in Houston also we have a new temple, and it's like minimum 25,000 a month. Just the
volume is so much.
Yeah.
Just the heating bill.
Yeah, heating, whatever, cooling, heating, utilities, boga, all that.
That's very less. That is very less.
Yeah, very less. Minimum, I'm saying.
No, that is very less.
50,000 almost.
Here.
So you have to be careful, and that was the minimum. The maximum we sometimes go is 48, like that. Double. So we have to be careful how you use the money, Krishna's money. Okay. Tax 9.
Nayate ashrama prayo. Dharma hetur mahatmana. Shantasya samachittasya. Vibhriyat utavatyajit.
A peaceful, equipoised person who is factually advanced in spiritual consciousness does not need to accept the symbols of a sannyasi, such as the 3 danda and kamandalu. According to necessity, he may sometimes accept these symbols and sometimes reject them, which is meaningful. According to the people, if they see you carrying a stick, then they respect you, then you better carry it. If they are all very, too materialistic and you don't want to associate with them, then you don't carry anything. So people will ignore you. Like Madhavendra Puri, when he realized that deity once He ran away and hid in the marketplace like that. So Prabhupada gives us an understanding of types of sannyasis, 4 types: Kuti Chaka, Bahudaka, Parivrajakaacharya, and Paramahansas. So here in Srimad Bhagavatam considers the Paramahansas among the sannyasis. Okay. The Mayavadi impersonal sannyasis cannot attain the Paramahansa stage because they are offensive to the Supreme Person. They consider the Lord's form to be material, so they are offensive. Therefore, they cannot come to that stage.
They often call them, a lot of time they call Paramahansa, these Paramahansa.
Yeah. They will give titles, but we know that they are not at that level. Okay. Even though there is a stage of the Lord, Brahmeti, Paramadmeti, Bhagavaniti, Sabditi. He is in that form. Still, they don't understand that he can exist in 3 forms. They think he has no form. He cannot have form. And when he comes as avatar, they say he comes in a material form. So it's also offensive. He comes in his Satchidananda Vigraha form, spiritual form. Now, this Bhagavatam that we are all trying to understand, at least from Prabhupada's purport, is actually meant for the Paramahansas. Paramo Nirmat Sharanam Satam. Okay. So, but out of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, who himself is a Paramahansa, we are able to understand something here. That is the reason why the purports are there. Otherwise, it's not. We can't understand. So then, what Paramahansas or sannyasis supposed to do? They're supposed to travel and teach the philosophy of Krishna consciousness wherever they go. And to preach, they can use the danda, carry around. So people will say, yes, he's a sannyas, I should respect him. Because there's some culture to respect people who are renounced. Even now in India, they respect somewhat. Now, in the early days, before Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they automatically took Babaji's vesh. That means nothing they had. They don't carry anything. They just like a renunciate. But due to the contamination in Bengal by many other followers who were Sahajiyas and so on, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur decided that, we should show a standard. And so he instituted the Sannyas Ashram again. And so then they went around preaching to differentiate from all the Babajis. So that's why we in our line now we preach. That's the sannyasis like that. All right, so sannyasi should only think, where can I preach? Next, what to do? Tell me where to preach. I want to go and preach. That should be the mood. Not sit in one place and say, okay, what are you cooking? Bring something, I'm hungry. Not like that. So then Prabhupada continues. Sometimes the Krishna consciousness movement sends its representative sannyasis to foreign countries where the danda and kamandalu are not very much appreciated. Like places like communist country, they don't like all the religious people, so you cannot dress like that. So we send our preachers in ordinary dress to introduce our books and philosophy. That's what we do whenever we go to communist nations like China and some places like that, Burma and so on. One has to be careful. Russia, text 10.
Avyaktalingo vyaktarto
Pravyaktalingo vyaktarto
Balavat
Manishimata Kavir Mukavadatmanam Sadrishya Darshayendram. Although a saintly person may not expose himself to the vision of human society, by his behavior, his purpose is disclosed. To human society, he should present himself like a restless child. And although he is the greatest thoughtful orator, he should present himself like a dumb man. This means don't reveal your true thing, because people sometimes ridicule and so on. Sindhu, Text 11.
So, you have a small question.
Yes.
What does orator mean?
Orator means one who can speak very nicely. Oral comes from the word oral, from the mouth.
Atrapi udraharti mam.
Atrapi udaharanti mam.
Itihasman puratamam.
Itihasam puratanam.
Prahadasya cha samvedam.
Prahadasya cha samvadam. Munir ajagasya cha. As a historical example of this, learned sages recite the story of an ancient discussion between Prahlad Maharaj and a great saintly person who was feeding himself like a python. Purport. So the person met by Prahlad Maharaj was undergoing ajagara vritti. That means he just stays in one place, don't do anything, and whatever food comes, they will eat. It's like snakes. Right? They just wait, and if some animal comes, they catch, and then they'll eat that. Like that. So they spoke to him, and this is what they spoke. Text 12 and 13.
Tam sayanam daropsha paste.
Tamsayanandaropaste.
Kaviryam sayasaninu.
Kaveryam sayasanuni.
Rajasvalaistanudeshe.
Rajasvalaistanudeshe.
Nigudharmala tejasam.
Nigudharmala tejasam.
Dadara slokan vicharan.
Dadasha lokan vicharan.
Lokatattva vivistasya.
Lokatattva vivisaya. Prito.
Vrittomatye klitaye.
Vrittomatye katipaye.
Prahrado bhagavat priya.
Prarado Bhagavat Priya. Prahlad Maharaj, the most dear servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, once went out touring the universe with some of his confidential associates just to study the nature of saintly persons. Thus he arrived at the bank of the river Kaveri, where there was a mountain known as Saya. There he found a great saintly person who was lying on the ground, covered with dirt and dust, but who was deeply spiritually advanced. Text 14.
Karma navriti virvacha. Karma navriti virvacha. Linge varnashamadivi.
Linge varnashamadivi.
Navidanti janayam ve.
Navidanti janayam vai.
So saviti naveti cha.
So saviti naveti cha. Neither by that saintly person's activities, by his bodily features, by his words, nor by the symptoms of his varnashram status could people understand whether he was the same person they had known. They were not able to understand whether he was the same person previously they had known. So Vaishnavera Kriya Mudra Vignena Bhujaya. A highly advanced Vaishnava lives in such a way that no one can understand what he is or what he was. Just like Gaur Kishodas Babaji. In his previous life, he was a cloth merchant. So people don't even know about those things. But he behaved in such a way, so renounced. People thought he was illiterate or something like that. Nor should attempts be made to understand the past of a Vaishnava. So sometimes people ask, what were you doing before? They ask the sannyasis or the guru, you shouldn't, because then you'll find fault. And then when you find fault, you will lose faith. And then when you lose faith, then you cannot take up Krishna consciousness. So look at Prahlad Maharaj. He didn't even ask him about who he was, but he understood he's an advanced devotee, so immediately offered him respectful obeisances. So like that, Generally, people like to sell themselves. I was this, I have 10 degrees, I have a degree in this, degree in that, a diploma in this, and then a whole list. And then it takes half an hour for the introduction and 10 minutes for the class. Like that. Yeah. Sometimes I think like that. So we should just say, this is a wonderful sadhu, please listen. You can find out the information later, right? Wasting time. Text 15. And
Tamnatvabhya
Char.
Bacharya Vidavat Padayo Ashirasis Prashan Vivitro Idam Aprakshir Mahabhagavato Sura.
The advanced devotee Prahlad Maharaj duly worshipped and offered obeisances to the saintly person who had adopted a python's means of livelihood. After thus worshipping the saintly person and touching his own head to the saint's lotus feet, Prahlad Maharaj, in order to understand him, inquired very submissively as follows. So you can see the behavior, how to behave with the sannyas. You not like go in and say, hey, Haribo, hi. Maharaj, like, yeah, sometimes we take it for granted. But they may be so exalted. Text 16 and 17.
Vivarshikayam Privanam
Vivarshikayam Privanam
Sodyamo Bhagavanyata Vitam Chaivodyamavatam
Bhogo Vitavatam Iha Bhoginam Kalute Hoyam Vivabhavati Nanyata. Seeing the saintly person to be quite fat, Prahlad Maharaj said, who can't say the word fat? My dear sir, you undergo no endeavor to earn your livelihood, but you have a stout body, exactly like that of a materialistic enjoyer. I know that if one is very rich and has nothing to do, he becomes extremely fat by eating and sleeping and performing no work. Prabhupada says his own guru did not like his disciples to become very fat in the course of time. But it's not that he doesn't like that, it means they are not doing any active service. They may be just sitting and just eating. So one who is trying to enjoy like their senses, they are known as bogis. So Bhogavan, okay, not a devotee of Bhagavan, but he's a Bhogavan. So Prahlad Maharaj is saying that this guy is not doing much, and he's a Bhogavan. And so what is the problem that he didn't like? He was surprised to see a saintly person adopting Aja Gara Vritti, like that, and becoming very fat, following this kind of principles. So then, in the material world, Prabhupada says, we generally see that when a man who's poor and skinny gradually endeavors to earn money through business or some other means, and he then gets the money, he enjoys the senses to his satisfaction. By enjoying the senses, one becomes fat. Therefore, in spiritual advancement, becoming fat is not at all satisfactory. Now, it doesn't mean that you must be thin also. So that's not the point. Some people, naturally, your body may be like that. So even if you eat little, you'll put on weight for some. So you don't get too mental about this thing. Just that should not be lazy. One should be preaching. One shouldn't just sit and eat in the temple, anywhere like that, So one should be working, do some work. That's the point. Text 18.
Nate Shayanasya
No.
Nate Shayanasya Nirodhamasya
Nate Shayanasya Nirodhamasya
Brahmanuharto Yataeva Bhoga
Brahmanuharto Yataeva Bhoga
Bhoginayam Tava Vipradeha
Bhoginayam Tava Vipradeha
Pivayatas Tadvadanakshamamchat.
Divadastavadanakshamam. O Brahmana, fully in knowledge of transcendence, you have nothing to do and therefore you are lying down. It is also understood that you have no money for sense enjoyment. How then has your body become so fat? Under the circumstances, if you do not consider my question impudent, kindly explain how this has happened. Impudent means,
Kind of
I say the question. Rude, cruel. Like, in the purport, Prabhupada says generally those engaged in spiritual advancement take food only once, either in the afternoon or in the evening. That means these are very advanced spiritually and they are not interested in eating. Most of us are not in that category. We have to eat 3-4 times. If one takes food only once, naturally he does not become fat. And it's a fact. Or some people don't eat anything, grains, they only eat non-grains, ekadasi.
Prabhu, I have a question. Whenever I keep a fast, my whole day the mind is only on food.
Yeah.
Only on food.
That's why you shouldn't keep a fast. No, you practice. Try not to think of. Once you start reading and doing service, you won't think of food. Otherwise, you'll think of food. You're so used to, conditioned, so therefore the mind goes to that food. But if we cut down on our eating fashion, instead of eating 3 times so much, eat little every time, you won't hanker for food so much. In any case, as you get old, your digestion gets slower, you won't want to eat anymore. That's the other way of becoming renounced. By force. The learned sage, however, was quite fat. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj was very much surprised. Because of being experienced in self-realization, a transcendentalist certainly becomes bright-faced, and one who is advanced in self-realization must be considered to possess the body of a Brahmana. Because the bright-faced saintly person was lying down and not working and yet was quite fat, Prahlad Maharaj was puzzled and wanted to question him about this. It's a very funny pastime. Text 19. Chitra priya kata samaha lokasya kurvata karma sheshe tadvikshita. Your honor appears learned, expert, and intelligent in every way. Now, in those days, they can tell simply by looking at a person whether they are intelligent, learned, and so on. Nowadays, you cannot tell. You can speak very well, saying things that are pleasing to the heart. You see that people in general are engaged in fruitive activities, yet you are lying here inactive. So Prabhupada says it's called physiognomy. That means through the features of a person, you can tell whether they are advanced or just foolish.
I'm having trouble connecting.
Hey, why are you connecting?
Nothing.
Text 20.
Srinarda Uvacha Sa Itam Daityapatina Paripashto Mahamuni Smayam Manastam Abhyaya Tadvad Amrita
Narada Muni continued, when the saintly person was thus questioned by Prahlad Maharaj, the king of the Daityas, he was captivated by this shower of nectarian words, and he replied to the inquisitiveness of Prahlad Maharaj with a smiling face. Now you must also understand Prahlad Maharaj is very exalted, so what he says always comes out very pleasing to whoever is listening. So, because they are devotees of Krishna, whatever they speak, they're speaking out of welfare and love for the other person. So the saintly person felt so much happiness. So therefore, shower of nectarian words is used there. Text 21.
Shivamana Uvacha
Shivamana Uvacha
Vededam Asura Shrishta
Vededam Asura Shrestha
Bhavananvaya Sammata
Bhavananvaya Sammata
Iho Paramayorinam
Iho Paramayorinam
Padanyadhyatma Chakshusha
Padanyadhyatma.
The saintly Brahmana said, O best of the Asuras, Prahlad Maharaj, who are recognized by advanced and civilized men, you are aware of the different stages of life because of your inherent transcendental eyes, with which you can see a man's character, and thus know clearly the results of acceptance and rejection of things as they are. Okay, so as I said, Prahlad Maharaj can understand very easily. Text 22.
Yasya Narayano Devo
Yasya Narayano Devo
Bhagavan Vedkata Sada
Bhagavan Vedkata Sada
Bhaktya Kevala Yajnanam
Bhaktya Kevala Jnanam
Dunoti Dvantam Arkavat
Dunoti Dvantam Arkavat. Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's full of all opulences, is predominant within the core of your heart because of your being a pure devotee. He always drives away all the darkness of ignorance as the sun drives away the darkness of universe. Of course, Bhaktya Kevalaya means Jnana Karmadi Amishraya. Unmixed with fruitive activities or speculative knowledge. So simply here, he is pure devotee. And therefore, all his knowledge, everything is coming from the personality of Godhead, from within his heart. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Viddesha Arjuna Tishtati. So he is helping him, guiding him like that. Okay. Text 23.
Tatapi Brumahe Prashnam
Tatapi Brumahe Prashnam
Tava Rajan Yata Shrutam
Tava Rajan Yata Shrutam
Sambhashaniyo Hi Bhagwan
Sambhasaniyo hi Bhavan
Atmana Sudhimachita
Atmana Shuddhimicchata.
My dear king, although you know everything, we have posed some questions, which I shall try to answer according to what I have learned by hearing from authorities. I cannot remain silent in this regard, for a personality like you is just fit to be spoken to by one who desires self-purification. You see, like when we ask a question, we expect immediate answer. Here you can see how they are glorifying each other, and it's so much different, the etiquette and the culture, you can see. And here he's saying he wants to hear also Prahlad Maharaj, or he wants to speak to him because he himself will get purified. So he feels like he's not saying, who the hell are you? Like that. He's not thinking like that. He's like, wow, another great person is asking, and so he's glorifying him. So generally Prabhupada says such saintly persons won't speak to anyone ordinary. They just keep quiet, they just tolerate. But because Prahlad Maharaj was there, he felt greatly happy, joyful, because he's going to feel more purified. The Lord himself came for Prahlad Maharaj. So who would not want to talk to Prahlad Maharaj and get his mercy? He wasn't a common, ordinary man. So when he is asking a question, the saintly person did not remain silent. He began to answer. Therefore, yata shrutam. And he says, I have also heard from authorities. So he has heard that this person is also qualified. The Prahlad Maharaj is very qualified like that. Prabhupada says one must refer to Shastras and give answers according to Vedic understanding. So whenever we try to preach, we can quote the verses if you are good at it, or at least say what it means. Like that. Not everyone can quote every quote, right? Not everyone has got good memory. So this is Krishna says, surrender everything onto me, right? Don't do any other activities like that. So you can say it in English, no problem. Okay. We shouldn't just prophecies not from mental concoction. So everything should be evidence from scriptures. Okay. Text 24.
Krishnaya Bhavahinya
Krishnaya Bhavahinya
Yoge Kame Apurjaya
Yoge Kame Apurjaya
Karmani
Karyamanoham
Nanayonishu Yodita
Nanayonishu Yojitaha. Because of insatiable material desires, I was being carried away by the waves of material nature's laws, and thus I was engaging in different activities, struggling for existence in various forms of life. And Prabhupada gives a nice analogy from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur about how we also go through such struggles. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that as a small piece of grass falls in a river and is tossed about with different types of wood and tree branches, the living entity floats in the ocean of material existence and is dashed and tossed amidst material conditions. This is called the struggle for existence. So Prabhupada says, therefore, one must stop these material activities, and the chance to do so is given in the human form of life. So how do we do that? We have to engage in the service of the Lord. Then by engaging more and more, the taste for material things will get down. Yeah, it goes down. And then automatically you'll stop. Those things you're not interested in. Then your desire to surrender to Krishna will become real. You really will feel in your heart, I want to please Krishna. Even though you may have other material desires, this desire will become so strong, it will push those desires away. So therefore, whatever our situation is, we should always worship Sri Krishna like that. And then we'll come to the pure devotional platform. Okay, so we'll stop here now. And we'll start at 2 o'clock. Now you can break for lunch. Okay. Prabhupada ki jai.